morning and welcome to the Sports Carnival live from the Trauma Center studios, where we take life with a grain of salt around the rim of our tequila shot, followed by a bush latte. That's right. Acclimating. Now here's your host, Dave Kearney.
Well, I'm happy to see, Chad, that you are fully embracing yourself as a Scotty, because the bush lattes, that is a part of Wisconsin culture as much as cheese is, as much as being a cheesehead is, and possibly as much as being a Bucks fan is. Chad, I don't know if you know, but last night the Milwaukee Bucks, in double overtime, without the services of Giannis.
How many overtimes?
Double overtime. That means two. Without the services of Giannis, no Drew Holiday, no Chris Middleton, no Pat Connaughton, no Joe Ingles, of course, gutted out a win over the Oklahoma City Thunder. And this game was super exciting. So bush lattes, I'm pretty sure were passed out after the game, at least in the Bucks locker room. What a finish that was. If you didn't see the game, which I'm sure that you didn't, that was a hell of a game. It was so much fun to watch.
I watched Jacques Vaughn's debut as the official head coach of the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, baby.
Beat up on the Knicks a little bit. I was surprised that it wasn't as tight of a game as I was anticipating. But hats off to Kevin Durant. He had a hell of a game. He dominated. I think he ended up with a triple-double, 29 points, 12 boards, 12 assists. He looked great, and I think that Jacques Vaughn is congratulations to Jacques Vaughn. There's one of those guys that's been in the league a long time. I think he was 12 years as a player. He was an assistant coach with the Spurs. You know, obviously he was an assistant behind Steve Nash, and now he's getting his shot, and congratulations to him.
Yeah, congratulations to Jacques Vaughn. Look, the Steve Nash experiment in Brooklyn was a disaster from the beginning, but it went even further than that. This is an institutional, organizational issue with the Nets. Good for them. They won a game under Jacques Vaughn, who has been removed of the interim tag. What I was curious about is this, though, buddy. As a Celtics fan, how relieved are you today that Jacques Vaughn has been named the head coach? Because that means that Ime Udoka, who was largely rumored to be like the next coach of the Nets, right? Because he was a Nets assistant before he took the head coaching job with the Celtics. Ime Udoka is not getting that job now.
No, but the fact that he was even rumored to be getting the job still poses problems, though, right? I mean, just the fact that anybody's talking about it tells me that there's something bigger there than what we've been told from the very beginning, which you and I have talked about off the air a couple of times. Like, there's something else going on here. It's not just an affair you have, an inter-office affair. You get suspended for a year. There's something else. There's a rift. I don't know what it is. I haven't done any deep diving there. But, I mean, yeah, I'm glad he didn't go, and I hope he stays with the Celtics. But in a year, is he going to want to be there? Well, are they going to want him there? I don't know.
That's the big question. And I think that you and I talked about this a little bit, especially off air. What would the Brooklyn Nets have had to give up to get Ime Udoka? Because the idea that Ime Udoka was just a free agent was that was a non-starter. He wasn't. He's under contract with Boston. You can't just leave the team, even if you're suspended. That's a disciplinary action, right? So you can't just get out of your contract because of that. Never understood exactly how that was going to work. But if you're a Celtics fan today, I would imagine that there's a little sigh of relief, even though the Celtics, for what it's worth, have been playing really good basketball.
Got a win last night.
Under their interim head coach, which, you know, again, just to put this out here for people that might not know, Ime Udoka gets suspended for a year for having a consensual affair and maybe something else. We don't exactly know, but a consensual affair, from all we can tell, with an employee of the team. Okay, that's not a great look, and we all know that's probably not something you should do. The guy that's running the team right now has a domestic battery charge against him, like an actual criminal domestic battery. So, like, Ime Udoka had a fling with somebody at work, which, again, torrid, naughty, possibly not in good taste. Fair.
We've all done it, though.
Well,
maybe not in that position, but
at least the royal we've all done this, and it's not a great look, and it makes problems. Yeah. But at the same time, it's not a crime. That was no crime, and it settled on me. Interesting that Ime Udoka doesn't do anything illegal, but gets suspended for a year. The guy that actually battered a person, like an actual other human being. Hey, listen, no problem. Let's get you in the coaching seat, which, you know, makes me think that whoever the coach of the Celtics is probably the next general manager for the Indianapolis Colts.
I don't. Does he have any experience? If he has experience, then we don't want him.
Well,
because he gets tainted. No, he gets tainted by analytics. All those pesky analytics. It's better just not have any experience at all. Well, that's what I'm saying. I think there's something more to it than that. I mean, a lot of people meet people from work, and that's how you develop a relationship. And a lot of people get married from that. Now, granted, if you're in a position of power, and I get all of that and HR and stuff, but the punishment doesn't fit the crime unless the crime is greater than what they're telling us.
Well, it doesn't seem to, but you and I have talked about this, and I'm sure a number of our audience members have talked about this amongst themselves recently, especially with the current political climate. At what point does the idea of seeming to be ahead of the curve, seeming to be woke, or whatever that would be? I mean, seeming to be prudent, if that's the case, because you're in Boston, so maybe it's a conservative.
I got woke and then I hit snooze. Sorry.
Get that thing right there. I just wonder at what point in time does the impetus to seemingly show a certain side or another, which, is whatever it is. I'm not trying to judge you for that, but I wonder as a business, if that wasn't part of the decision, like, wow, we better get out in front of this, because look, Ime Udoka was not just a basketball coach, but in Boston, how many black coaches have they had? A few, like literally a few. And one of them was Casey Jones, one of the most decorated players. The other was Bill Russell, one of the most decorated players. So you give Boston a little bit of a pass for those two. At the end of the day, though, I do wonder if maybe the Celtics organization wasn't trying to get so far ahead of a scandal that they actually overstepped the entirety of what it was, because Ime Udoka was dating a famous actress, and I don't know if that's still going on now, but that's part of it. The celebrity inheritance that comes with dating a famous actress is part of it. I wonder if their PR people didn't think, hey, this is going to be a bigger deal than what it was. It seems to me that they made it a bigger deal than probably it had to be.
Well, but it was mutual, though, because he did agree to it. He didn't fight it, right? He didn't go.
What does that mean, though?
Well, I mean, we haven't really heard much from him. That's my point. So, like, there's something there. There's a missing piece of the puzzle, and I don't know what it is, and I don't understand it. But to answer your question, yes, I am glad that Jacques Vaughn got the job and Ime Udoka is staying with Boston. Thank you. I'm very glad about that.
So, as a Celtics fan, Chad is portraying this morning a little bit of gratitude that Ime Udoka is not yet out and going to Brooklyn, which if that did happen, Brooklyn would have ended up getting back, or the Celtics, I should say, like draft picks that would have sent you as a Celtics fan into the 2050s. Listen, we got a lot to cover. The Bucks last night beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. No Giannis, no Drew Holiday, but man, did Javon Carter and Brook Lopez step up big. We've got that. Jon Denton, our sports betting insider, former UNLV quarterback, Chad, is going to be joining us at 8:30. So stay tuned. We're coming back, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center Studios, powered by, I should say, the Recovery Room. Stick around. What can I say? The Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi Street is not only my favorite bar in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin, it's my favorite restaurant in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin. Breakfast served 8 to noon, Saturday and Sundays, daily specials, incredible cocktails, and the best damn wait staff in the entire city. My buddy Matt knows how to treat you right, and that's why when you go to the Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi, you're always going to have a great time and a great meal with a great cocktail. So if you haven't been in a while, or perhaps you're just a regular and you want to stop in again, make it a thing. I'm there every single week. How about you?
Hello, this is Professor Fission for Nuke and Nuke Light, the world's first nuclear beer. Brewed and nuked in 1956 and recently found in Warehouse 14. How's it still fresh, you may ask? Well, thanks to our friends at Cesium-137, Stromium-90, and Plutonium-239, these beers will stay fresh for another 90 years. Not only does Nuke and Nuke Light have 10 times the kick, but you're sure to be a hit at the party because it helps your urine glow in the dark.
Nuke and Nuke Light. Pick up a case today before it melts through your grocer's floor. Handle with care. Yummy.
Back to the action live from the Trauma Center Studios. This is the one and only Sports Carnival. I believe it was Robert Kraft who said, you can reach around any problem with a firm solution. Now here's your host, Dave Carney.
Yeah, easy for Robert Kraft to say. That took a lot to get the firm solution, by the way. There was a pharmaceutical firm that actually contracted that firm solution for Robert Kraft. Listen, I just want to throw this out here. Nuke Light beer, it's not just a good beer, Chad. It's also a great way, if you're Hansel and Gretel, to know how to get home. So gone are the days of breadcrumbs leading you back home. Now, all you have to do is whip out the wiener and drop a couple of, nuke light, dribbles around, and you found your way home. It's really a multi-purposed and a multifaceted beverage. It's very good. Where you can get this, the recovery room, of course. That's where you can get this.
Plus, it's good for your teeth.
Oh, very good. As we talked about yesterday, we absolutely, we adjudicated the whole urine to the teeth effect. And if you're piss poor, or if you're too poor that you don't have a pot to piss in, or if you're dirt poor, we went through this yesterday. By the way, subscribe to us on YouTube if you've missed any of today's show. Chad, I want to thank everybody at the University of Wisconsin Lacrosse. These folks are great with us. We had Matt Janis on Tuesday, like we do every single Tuesday at 8:30. And we put together a couple of little video snippets, right? We put them out on our social media feeds, which are at the Sports Carney, the University of Wisconsin Lacrosse, and whomever is behind their video production elements is doing us such a great favor. And I don't know if you're listening this morning, but maybe you see this later. Thank you so much, because what you guys are doing to repackage this stuff is awesome. Matter of fact, I was hanging out with members of the UWL softball team last night, the coaching staff anyways, and this thing's starting to catch on. They've actually asked us, would we do wiffle ball shows? And I said no, but we would do it after the show. Would we do track shows? And I said no, but we would do it after the show. So Chad, just be like putting this into your mind's eye. Just be ready to start talking some deep dive. UWL track coming up soon. And listen, I will say this. The University of Wisconsin Lacrosse puts out champions. Do you know what they're hosting here in UW? I think it's in a couple of weeks. It's the Division III first 2 rounds of the NCAA soccer tournament. So we're going to have a packed house at UWL. The town's going to be bumping, and, well, there's going to be a lot of athletes here. There are going to be a lot of athletes here.
Female athletes?
Well, it's a good-looking town, and it's going to be it's a nice it's a nice thing to see all of these people come to town to celebrate and really appreciate the athletic prowess of these fine athletes at UWL. It really is.
I don't mind covering track, but I do chafe easily. So wiffle ball, big fan. I would do a whole hour of wiffle ball. I love wiffle ball. That's one of my favorites.
There's apparently, and I think it's in Iowa. I was talking to a buddy. Maybe it was Morningwood. And Morningwood, if you're there, pop up to the Sports Carney on Twitter and take part in our poll, Chad. We've got a lot of folks that are chiming in with our poll question this morning as far as what's more surprising, the Packers' cold season or the Bucs' hot start. But if you're in town and if you're Morningwood, tell me if it isn't just one of the most interesting things when you see all of these different parents, like the grandparents, aunts, uncles, come to town, converge on one spot, which, Chad, I don't know exactly how big Yakima is where you're at right now, but when you put 10, 15,000 people here, I mean, it feels busy. I mean, it really does. It feels busy, and it just sort of enlivens the whole community. It really does. The hotels are busy. The restaurants are busy, which, hey, if you're a local, that can be a little bit distracting at times, but I don't know. It feels different. Does Yakima ever go through something like that?
Yeah, we've got this sports complex that they just put up, and there's always soccer tournaments going on. There's always some kind of kids thing going on. So, and there's infrastructure to support that. They've put in some hotels and restaurants and things of that nature, and it makes traffic kind of a bugger. But yeah, no, it's fun. There's always something going on. Obviously, this time of year with the weather, it doesn't help, especially when it just snowed.
Fair.
It all melted, thank God.
Dude, it snowed in, I want to say late September, early October here. The first time that it snowed was, I think it was late September, early October. It didn't last. It was only a day. Like you say, melted really quickly. It's 68 degrees here today with a chance of rain. Now, tomorrow, it's going to be 36 degrees. So this is almost like the desert where you go from one extreme to the next in a matter of 24 hours. So we're going to drop 24 degrees in less than 24 hours, but that's okay. We're going to keep you warm here on the Sports Carnival. If you're just tuning in, I have no idea who's going to be, listen, I don't know who's going to be alive to run for president in 2024. I can't even tell you. Like, we are actually putting up the oldest motherfuckers in the history of this country.
I'm going to say Kanye. I'm going to put my money on Kanye or whatever he's called. What does he call himself now?
What about The Rock, too? It could be The Rock versus Kanye.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. There you go. Hey, BetUS_official on Twitter. Go ahead and check them out. Maybe they've got the odds there. I mean, this is something that they started taking numbers on this in a couple of shops.
Yeah, it's kind of like Idiocracy, where, it's going to end up being a professional wrestler that ends up running the country.
Yeah. Who thought that movie was going to turn out to be a fucking documentary?
And
Like,
we're spraying our
who actually
crops.
thought that?
We're spraying our crops with Powerade or Gatorade.
Yes, it was Mountain Dew, and they were spraying it with like Mountain Dew and like wondering why things weren't growing. Oh my Lord. To be fair, Idiocracy was one of the, at the time, worst movies I had ever seen. I thought it was deplorable. The acting was terrible. The plot seemed stupid. I watched that again 6 months ago. I was horrified. I was horrified at how accurate it was. Chad, if you could, because we got Jon Denton coming on at 8:30. We're going to make some sports betting picks. And last night, I feel like I missed out because the Lakers were playing the Clippers. LeBron, by the way, is gone bye-bye. Okay, he got injured last night.
The game. What happened?
It calls they sucked. Like the team sucks. And we talked about this the other day. If you're Rob Pelinka, if you're the Bus family, you start to pull this back. I would trade both Anthony Davis and LeBron at this point. Russell Westbrook, as much as we want to make fun of him, is playing the best basketball of anybody on that team coming off
off the bench. Yeah.
Well, because he's actually able to play his game, right? The point is, I feel bad that I didn't take the Clippers minus the 3.5 points, but I put together yesterday a 3-team NFL parlay, which we'll talk about with JD coming up at 8:30 this morning. Going back, though, to last night's Bucks game, Chad, I know it wasn't something that was on out west. This was a regionally televised game. Was able to catch some of this with my buddies from UWL, the softball team. We saw the end of the Bucks game. So fourth quarter, first overtime, second overtime. I know we've got Giannis on the screen here. He wasn't playing last night. Neither was Drew Holiday. Of course, Chris Middleton's been out. Of course, Joe Ingles hasn't played yet. But without the services of Giannis, without the services of Drew Holiday, in double overtime, this Bucks team beat a very plucky Thunder team. Their record might not reflect exactly how tough of an out they are, but they beat a very plucky team in the Oklahoma City Thunder, Chad, 136-132. At the end of the first overtime, and we were talking about this off air, Brook Lopez, with 0.6 of a second left, was on an out-of-bounds play after Shai Gilgeous-Alexander crosses over. Javon Carter nails a three-pointer. Brook Lopez gets fouled with 0.6 of a second on an out-of-bounds play. Hits one of two free throws, sends the game into double overtime. And then it's the old adage. When you and I played sports, and this is something I was always depressed about when my coach told me, but it was true. You can't teach tall.
No, you cannot.
Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis were just taller than the other players for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they beat them 136-132. The second overtime, I didn't really get too nervous about it. Felt like the Bucks were kind of in control. But what an incredibly entertaining game last night. And Javon Carter, who will probably see scant minutes once the likes of Chris Middleton and Pat Connaughton come back. I mean, if he sees 8 to 12 minutes a game after those guys come back, I'll be surprised. But he had himself a career-high night last night. 36 points and 12 assists. And Chad, Javon Carter's a guy that probably is unknown to most NBA fans. He did a stint with Phoenix. He played with Milwaukee a little bit last year. Again, I don't think this guy is a real rotation piece when everybody is healthy. But what an important pickup for this Bucks team, because, we're looking at a team in Wisconsin, the Packers, who can't seem to win with anybody. They drafted or they pick up on free agency. This Bucks team is winning with anybody. That is what I really find impressive. Javon Carter's a guy, just a guy. He's not a superstar. He's not an all-star. Right. He's just a guy. But he's able to go out there and in the construct of this system get 36 points and 12 assists. And by the way, Brook Lopez, and we've been putting flowers on Brook Lopez all year for a good reason, 24, 13, 5 blocks. I'm sorry. That's old school fucking center dominance right there. 13 rebounds. The guy averages 4 rebounds a game.
What is all this talk about flowers I've heard lately? All these different, this new language. I'm not exactly. When you're putting flowers on somebody, it means you're praising somebody. Yes. I've been meaning to ask you this, and I don't mean to diverge this, because you're right. That was a great game, and we can talk a little bit more about it, obviously. What does dapping up mean? I don't know what that means either. There's a couple of things I'm not understanding on ESPN.
Yeah, dapping up is like when you give somebody a little bit of love, right?
But
like,
what is that derivative of? What does that mean?
Just giving dap. Listen, if you looked up the Urban Dictionary, giving dap is like giving I wouldn't say praise necessarily, because nonverbal a lot of time, but dapping up would be like giving somebody a high five, giving somebody a pat on the back, all the things that you're uncomfortable with. Like the touching thing. That's what dapping up is. All the things that you don't want, that's what dapping up is.
Well, because see, I'm old school. So dapper, like if you're dapper, that means that you dressed up and that you're ready, you're dapper, right? So that's kind of why I thought, how is giving somebody a high five derivative of being dressed up and ready to rock and roll?
I don't know. Bailey Kale tells me bet all the time. I don't know what that means, but that's a new phrase, and it means yes, we're going to do something. Bet, B-E-T. When he first texted me this, I had no fucking idea what it meant. I went to the Urban Dictionary, started looking it up, and I was like, okay, because I thought it was an acronym, right? Like B-E-T, like,
oh, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I didn't know
BET,
I didn't know BET still existed, right? Like, that was my first surprise. Like, wow, that's still a channel? Okay, I guess 50 Cent bought that.
I watched 227 the other day. Yeah.
Moving on up. That's when we got that joke, which was great. Yeah, so there's a whole new language. Dapping up, though, essentially means giving a little bit of the high five, the back slap. Correct me if I'm wrong, and we should have some of our listeners chime in. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that is what dapping up means.
So now bet means you can bet on it, right? You can bet I'll be there. You can bet on it, right? Is that what that means?
Basically, that's to my understanding what that is. Yes.
Speaking of bet on, did you bet on the Bucks?
No, and I'm glad that
you didn't fade the Lakers or bet the Bucks. So what is wrong with you? Is there something wrong with you?
I got myself into an NFL state of mind last night. As a matter of fact, I bet against the Packers. I took the Cowboys -5.
Against the Packers.
I bet against the 49ers. I took the Chargers +7.5. Not to think that the 49ers won't win. And I took the Minnesota Vikings, Chad, +7 against Buffalo, who might be playing with Case Keenum at quarterback this Sunday in Buffalo, which is interesting because he's a former Minnesota Viking quarterback. But no, I felt bad. Listen, the Bucs wouldn't have covered. They were favorites by, I want to say 5-6 points last night. And so this would have been a bad beat because they win by 4 and they don't cover. So I'm glad I didn't take that. The Lakers, that feels like a miss to me. It really does. The thing about the Lakers, and I mentioned this in my daily play yesterday, the thing about the Lakers was I didn't know who was playing for the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard is like going to be out for, he's basically retired. Like he's basically retired. He didn't play last year. He's played 2 games this year, and we have an indeterminate time before he comes back. So I wasn't sure how to really gauge the Clippers, right? Was Paul George going to play? By the way. Is it Vitya Zubats going to be like the go-to scorer here? Is John Wall going to come out of the crypt and start scoring, 28 points a game? I don't know.
Vitya Zubats? Is that a real name?
It is. Vitya Zubats was drafted by the Lakers, and he plays for the Clippers. Center. That's what I'm saying. Would you have really wanted to put your money on that team to cover any spread? I didn't, and I should have, of course, because it seemed like a perfect opportunity to fade the Lakers. I just didn't do it.
Well, and let me just say, I got a highlight here, a local highlight for me in the Bucks game, and Marjan Beauchamp, who scored 19 points, had 8 boards.
Yes.
And since Giannis has been absent, he's been starting or playing a lot more, and he's a local kid. So Beauchamp is a big name in this Yakima Valley. He's been around for a long time. His father and grandfather are big names in this town.
Is that right?
And he went to YVC, a local college here, and he's doing really well. So 19 points and 8 boards for Marjan. That's great. It's good to see that.
Well, listen, for the Milwaukee Bucks, it's fantastic to see that because, the Milwaukee Bucks, Chad, as opposed to, I don't know, some lottery-bound team, they've been having to draft, much like the San Antonio Spurs, right, when they got Tony Parker and guys like, Manu Ginobili in the second round. Like, they've been having to draft late in the rounds. And this is where I really praise the Bucks front office for being able to draft these guys. Now, there's another kid that the Milwaukee Bucks have, and oh my gosh, I'm like totally blanking on his name, but he was a rookie last year or 2 years ago, really starting to come up. The development of a pick in the 20s to the 30s or even into the second round, it is really quite magnificent. You mentioned somebody the other day that Bucks fans really love, and that's Malcolm Brogdon. He's playing for your Celtics team right now. Mm-hmm. I want to say he was the first ever rookie of the year that was drafted in the second round. So the Bucks picked this guy up in the second round. Now, he was an older college player, had played all 4 years of college, had a long college resume, which isn't normal today, but he came out as a more complete prospect and a more complete player. Now, the Bucks moved off him. He went to Indiana, got traded to Boston. But you sort of see with this Bucks team now what they're trying to accomplish with the players. And Marjan Beauchamp is one of these guys that, Chad, listen, not to say he's on the same plane as Giannis Antetokounmpo, because I don't know he ever gets there, but it's one of those kinds of players that you look at if you're a fan and you say, who the fuck is this? And then he comes out and scores 19 points and grabs 8 rebounds in a victory in double overtime, and it all makes perfect sense, right?
Well, that's the great thing about this Bucks team is you're getting all these contributions when you're depleted, right? And when your star is away, these guys are filling in the cracks and they're still getting wins, and they're 10-1. They're dominating the East. They're dominating the NBA, and they don't even have all of their pieces. That's to the rest of the NBA, I would imagine, especially in the East, that's got to be scary. Now, as well as Boston is playing and some of these other teams are playing, that's all fine and dandy. But when you get every single piece of the puzzle on the floor and they're flowing together, and it's going to take a little time to, kind of make that work, that's going to be a scary team to face.
Well, you mentioned something the other day, and if, again, you're just like tuning into the Sports Carnival first time, go to our YouTube page, subscribe at the Sports Carnival, and check out some of our takes. You mentioned something the other day about a cohesive team without a star like Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? And you mentioned something that at the time seemed I wouldn't say completely counterintuitive, but you could make an argument against it. You said, this Bucks team, when they play without Giannis, which I don't know if it was foresight or you were just like waxing poetic, but when they play without Giannis, it will give them an opportunity to develop and to play better as an overall team. Because when Giannis is on the court, this is a singular talent to the likes of Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal. Such a unique and individual force that he can really, players can become bystanders, right? They are watching Giannis just like we would. Yeah. That's something that happened with Michael and Shaq and Kobe and all these guys. When you play without Giannis and you're the Milwaukee Bucks and you're able to win a game like this against a Thunder team that, look, these are not scrubs. Okay, this is not like a group of G League players. This is an NBA team, and the Thunder are playing some pretty good ball this year. When you play a team like that and you win in double overtime, Chad, I think that, if you're Javon Carter and maybe you average 8 minutes a game for the rest of the year, when all of these guys come back, when you're called on and it's time for you to come in the clutch or whenever your number is called, you're ready to perform, right? Like that's the thing with Marshawn Beauchamp too. When your number is called, you're ready to perform. And because of that, this Bucks team, to go back to what you said earlier, is not just a little, this is fucking terrifying for the rest of the Eastern Conference, because what are they going to do with the fully healthy Chris Middleton and Giannis Antetokounmpo? Those are two all-stars.
And Morningwood has a good point here. Bucks are doing it without their big guns. Yes, Lakers can't do it with their front liners. No, they can't. The Lakers are in shambles. The Bucks are on a trajectory that is, again, scary for the rest of the NBA. And a lot of this has to go to Giannis because of the culture that he's breeding there, of the guy that's the superstar, the best player not only on the team but in the NBA, and he works harder than everybody, not only on the team but probably the NBA, and actually believes that he is a quote-unquote role player. So the rest of his teammates, how could you not buy in? How can you bitch? How can you complain? You can't. You're like, we got the greatest player in the world. He's doing everything possible to get a win. I have no excuses. I have to do the same thing. And when we're a man down, I have to step up. And that's what they're doing. It's extremely impressive. And I hope Packers are taking notes. They should be taking notes right now.
Well, Chad, this has been, it's almost like you lived out here in Wisconsin for your whole entire life, because for the last 3 or 4 days,
I know I look like it.
Oh, you'd fit right in. I mean, let's not fake the funk here. You'd fit right in out here. The last 4 or 5 days, that's almost to a person that I've talked to that's a sports fan. I mean, some people are uninitiated, they don't care. But to a person on a sports fan level, that's what we've been hearing, is that you look at a guy, and it took a while, believe me, it took a while for the state of Wisconsin to come around to the idea that basketball could be king, right? Like that the NBA's champion could reside in Milwaukee. It took some getting used to, even during their championship run. But in the last few days, I have been hearing more and more from people that say, look, this Bucks team with Giannis is how the Packers should be running their team. Because, whatever you want to say about unique and individual talents, Michael Jordan punched Steve Kerr out at a practice. When it came time, he did. He punched Steve Kerr out of the practice.
Yeah, well, he was being a bitch.
Well, Steve Kerr was, apparently. I heard Steve Kerr never backed down from him, though. Like, no, that's one thing I heard. Steve Kerr did not back down from Michael. Like, Steve Kerr's not a little dude. I think he's 6'4", right? Like, okay, Michael, here's the reason you don't punch Michael back, because of all the money and all the problems that you get from the coach. Like, if you knock Michael Jordan's fucking block off, like, you're getting fired.
Ain't gonna work.
That's not gonna work. Any Bobby Portis or Nikola Mirotic, like, that's Michael Jordan. I guess what I'm saying is this, like, when you have a guy like Giannis, it does for Packer fans and Wisconsin sports fans, it sets up an interesting dichotomy, because you want to root for Rodgers. You want to root for the Packers so much. But to be fair, as a football fan, and largely out here, Chad, everybody played high school football, right? Like, I mean, almost everybody played high school football, meaning everybody's got a certain knowledge of what the team atmosphere is. When you've got one leader that's all about the team and the other one that's like, hey, this is your fault. You drafted wrong players. I don't like these guys. Yeah, it doesn't land. It just doesn't land on Wisconsin folks like maybe Aaron Rodgers would wish it would.
No, that's true. And when you have that contrast of, obviously it's a different sport, but it's on the same level, and you've got their superstar doing the exact opposite. It obviously doesn't contrast well for our buddy Aaron Rodgers. Did you see that Facebook? I just real quick on that. Did you see that? That was bet the Iowa Hawkeyes. Jon Denton will agree.
Yes,
we'll see when we
I
get
did see that.
Agrees.
Let's go back there. So it says bet Iowa Hawkeyes. Johnny Denton will agree. You know what? That's a good way to segue, I would suppose, Chad, into our next segment. Jon Denton, our sports betting insider, former UNLV quarterback, is going to be joining us here on the Sports Carnival. Johnny's got plays for us in the NFL and college football coming up this morning. So why don't you do yourself a favor, 60 seconds, grab a quick cup of coffee or a drink of water. We'll be back here on the Sports Carnival broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios. Now more than ever, if you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps an investment property, you need a full-time dedicated real estate agent who is up to date on all the latest trends and analysis and is ready to give you the kind of service that you deserve. That's why the official real estate agent and the official real estate partner of the Sports Carnival is Kyle Cable of OneTrust Real Estate. Whether you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps you are a seasoned investor, call the official real estate agent partner of the Sports Carnival, Kyle Cable of OneTrust Real Estate. Preferred Insurance is the official auto, home, business, flood, and life insurance agency of the Sports Carnival, serving folks in La Crosse and surrounding areas with licenses in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. As an independent insurance agency, Preferred Insurance is free to find the very best insurance for you, your family, or your business needs. Call my friends at Preferred Insurance today and set up a free consultation. Remember, working with an independent agency means Preferred Insurance works for you, with you, to find the best solutions at the best prices.
Back to the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios, where the UW Eagles are flying high, the Bucks are beating up the East, and the Packers are trying to pack 10 pounds of shit into a 5-pound sack. Now here's your host, Dave Kearney.
Oh, boy. Well, we're making friends out here in Wisconsin, aren't we? The Packers packing 10 pounds of shit. Boy, this team's been so stinking awful this year. I don't even know if it's 10 pounds of fecal matter. This thing is this going on a metric ton. It really is. And I'll tell you what.
Fecal lives matter.
Fecal lives matter, indeed. I don't know if he's got to play on this thing today or even this weekend, but the Dallas Cowboys in Green Bay this Sunday versus the Green Bay Packers, only having to give up 5.5 points. At least that was my last look at BetUS_official on Twitter. It seems like a gift. Dallas is going to roll the Green Bay Packers. At least I think they are. Let's bring our sports betting insider, Chad, former UNLV quarterback Jon Denton, on the program. JD, before we get into your picks, help us out with this Packer and Cowboy game. I'm not a Cowboy fan. I don't believe in Mike McCarthy. I've let this be known for years. But this game, where the Packers are at and where the Cowboys are at, JD, I smell a bloodbath, and I smell it in favor of the Dallas Cowboys.
You know, Dave, it's really tempting for me to play Green Bay at +5.5.
Really?
Yes. And if this line gets to 6.5, I might get involved in it. And the only reason is just, again, it's one of the wounded dog, don't mess with a wounded dog type thing. But I think Green Bay, if I remember right in my research, it is actually one of my games. We'll just start there. Green Bay fits 6 against the spread systems this week that are all live. They have winning angles from 69 to 83%, which is rare. So you have a lot of systems and trends. But again, the eye test makes it extremely hard to pull the trigger, right? That's what we've been talking about. But I think lack of offensive weapons, continuity, combined with Dallas defense, points are going to be hard to come by, I think, for Green Bay. Get this. I'm going to play the second half under. Both of these teams combined are 12, 3, and 2, 80% to the under in the second half this year.
Love that.
I'm going to play the under in the second half.
So, John, when you're looking at bets, these storylines a lot of times are distracting to people, and I think that they are detrimental when you're trying to do some gambling. Do you agree with that? Like this Mike McCarthy angle and, the relationship between him and Aaron Rodgers, and you're seeing this going back and forth, and it's going to be emotional and all that. you kind of have to put all that aside when you're gambling, correct? Or do
I
you
wouldn't say all, I wouldn't say all of it aside. I think some of it has to factor in a little bit, maybe into your thinking. It has to go into your research at least, right? I wouldn't say necessarily factors into your final decision because, what these guys have in a relationship doesn't come down to they're both going to want to win. They both have the game plans, all this good stuff, right? So all the outside noise that's created by, the media, I don't think it comes into play really that much. I think you have to take it into effect just because, again, could be some guy that has a head case, right? And the next thing you know, I'm not saying that this guy has a head case. I'm just saying, hey, you get to the point where it could affect some players.
So
John, he does have a head case, actually. Now that you say that.
Well, and this is something, Chad, I was thinking about when we were preparing to bring John on, because John, you played quarterback at the highest levels, and you were on the Dolphins practice squad. You played in the CFL, played in college. When you're a quarterback, and maybe we overvalue the quarterback position, but to me, it seems like one of the most important positions in sports because of the credit that it gets and the blame that it takes as a position when things go right or wrong. If you're the quarterback of any team, but especially one that's going through turmoil, what's your approach to the team? Like how would you as a quarterback approach the team and I don't want to say as opposed to Aaron Rodgers, but how would you go about that?
It would be opposed to Aaron Rodgers. It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be that. I think for me, I've always, I've been in situations where, unfortunately, but fortunately for me, I've been kind of the shining spot of the game, right? For the Rebels, and just been a couple different places. So you never want to take that me approach first, and I think that's what he did right away. And it just Again, that's why you don't hear some of his receivers coming to his at bat in the media saying, "Hey, we're here for Aaron. We're coming at you don't hear that, right? You hear that from other teams and other players and other relationships, but I think folks are tired of just the antics. They'll take it as long as the W's are coming, and once it goes sour, right? It's easy to jump on that pile, but I think it's warranted in this case, though.
Chad, you've got a team up there in the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest. As we bring John's slide up here, John's plays for us here on a Thursday, but you've got a team in the Pacific Northwest, the Seattle Seahawks, that are rallying behind a guy named Geno Smith, an 8-year NFL backup that was drafted at the top of the second round by the New York Jets. I mean, essentially, John, and we talked about this earlier in the season, this guy was considered a marked bust, an absolute bust. And I'm not that Geno Smith has a long career continuing this way. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick popped for a little bit. We've seen backups pop for a little bit, but there is something to be said about a holistic approach to a team. And at the quarterback position, never having played, it just feels like because these guys get all the money, they get all the credit. When things start to go bad, you need that quarterback to be the guy to sort of take some of those arrows from you. Like Romeo Doubs shouldn't be getting thrown on the bus, a fucking rookie, right? Like they need a guy like Rodgers to take some of those slings and arrows so that those young receivers can mature and go on. And listen, I don't know what we're going to see from the rest of the season in Green Bay, but you've got them on the under in the second half. We've got that on our graphic right now. Green Bay, Dallas, under 21 in the second half. That's perfect because Green Bay cannot score in the second half. Their defense, though, has given up a ton of points. So, I mean, that probably is going to be all on Dallas. But let's start, John, in your college plays, because I'm really interested with college football right now. TCU is the number 4 team, according to the College Football Playoff Committee, that they are really leaning into this whole undefeated thing, right? Like they think that TCU is better than a 2-loss Alabama team, which they're not, but they're putting them in the top 4. Now, that doesn't come into play necessarily with these plays, but LSU is one of your plays this weekend. But let's start with Tulane versus UCF. Why do you like this particular matchup? What did you see in this one when you were making your predictions?
So obviously, when you're looking at against the spread records and all this stuff, trying to figure out who's hot, who's not, Green Wave have been crushing it against the spread this year, going 8-1 against the number. Tulane is 25th nationally in yards per rush allowed. They got a great defense with. When you look at like Mel Kiper, all these scout reports, they've got a bunch of guys that are on the 7th round and up range, veteran group. I just really think that Willie Fritz, when you look at what he's done there, he's 2016. So he's been there 6 years, most profitable coach against the spread in college football, 26-11, 70% against the spread. He's covering at about a 5.5, almost a 6 points per game clip. So I just look at this game as Tulane's got a chance to start, again, getting up into that upper echelon of the conference. They have a chance. I think they actually have a chance to take over the conference lead here and Central Florida's banged up in the quarterback position. So recent luck on their side. So I like Tulane -2.
All right, Tulane -2 versus UCF, who crowned themselves national champions a couple of years ago after going undefeated, much like TCU would like to be doing now. Let's talk about the second play, Arkansas +3 versus LSU.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily a big Brian Kelly fan. Chad, you're a Notre Dame sympathizer. I don't know about a Notre Dame fan, but you're a Notre Dame sympathizer.
They beat Clemson last week, by the way.
They did. And listen, LSU.
And I was on that game.
Also beat Alabama, right? Like LSU beat Alabama. So I'm curious to see why you're on Arkansas's side plus the 3 points here, because to me, it looks like it should be an easy SEC play for Brian Kelly. Why do you have Arkansas plus the points?
This is exactly what the sports books and these line makers are wanting us to think, Dave. I have it right there. The line is telling you something. That's the first thing in my notes I wrote down this morning is the line is telling us something. It's a classic letdown situation play for LSU. They just upset Bama. What did Arkansas do? Can you guys remember the team that they just lost to? Liberty.
No.
So
Liberty.
Yeah. The spread is only 3 points. So again,
Liberty.
Think about that dynamic, right? LSU just upset Bama. Arkansas just lost to Liberty. The spread is only 3.
That's a fair point.
Baiting us as the Joe Publics, right? Because we're not sharps, but baiting us as the Joe Publics to take these Tigers, right? But yes, I look at it. Arkansas's got chinks in the armor. LSU's going to have some success. They're going to score. Arkansas's got one of the top 4, top 5 rated offensive lines in the country. They're going to try to keep this ball out of LSU's hands with some good run game. LSU sucks against the run, just to put it plainly. KJ Jefferson, one of the biggest underrated quarterbacks in the game today. And then I'm going to go another coach angle for you. Sam Pittman, coach of Arkansas, 12-6 against the spread as an underdog since he's gotten there. And then 8-3 against the spread versus top 20 teams, not named Alabama or Georgia. So I think we're playing LSU this week. Give me Arkansas +3.
So let me just ask you this final question. Where are they playing? Are they playing in Baton Rouge or are they playing in Arkansas?
I'm not sure. I have to look that up. I can't remember. I just in my notes here. I just had Arkansas.
And
LSU.
the only reason that I wanted to bring this up is because I was checking out a stat yesterday. Top 25 opponents. And I know Arkansas is not a top 25 opponent. At least I don't think they are right now in the top 25. And if they are, correct me if I'm wrong. But
no,
in matchups of top 25 opponents, and we'll just go ahead and consider them one because they're an SEC team. The road team is 1-16 this year. Like 1-16. They're not winning at all. Let's talk about real quick, though, Navy versus Notre Dame, because Chad, you mentioned that Notre Dame did get a big time win last week, like a big time win. I didn't anticipate Notre Dame being very good at all this year. I really didn't. They seem like, John, though they are beating up on a weakened ACC right now. Like if they win this game versus Navy, did they kind of already win the ACC conference championship?
Yeah, I'll answer that in a second. I just looked. LSU is at Arkansas, so LSU's on the road. On the road this week.
That's
so
fair. That's fair.
Have a good shot there. I like Arkansas. Well, Navy though, we'll get to this game. I think Notre Dame is on the verge of either clinching it or 1 or 2 wins away. Like they're right on the cusp. But I'm just fading Notre Dame here. I've never liked them at the beginning of the year. I faded them before we got on the show. I obviously had a recent loss with Clemson on them here last week, but I still feel good about Navy in this spot. And when you look at service teams specifically, obviously we know how their makeup is, the characteristics of these kids, but they're 65% against the spread when they're a 2-touchdown underdog since 2005. So a good sample size, and they're covering by over 5 points a game in those against the spread wins. But you think about offensive juggernaut for Navy, right? The offense saw that. They are top 15 in 6 run defensive categories, guys. Wow. So they have the ability to hang with Notre Dame in the trenches. Notre Dame still offensively one-dimensional. They have 0 deep threat, which, again, might be Navy's only soft spot on this defense. Irish, 0-4, double-digit favorites this year. They lost outright to Marshall and Stanford. Give me Navy +17.5.
You know, Chad, I like this line here, too, because Navy's one of those teams that traditionally plays, Army really well. They play Notre Dame really well. Actually, Navy's a tough team to prepare against, John, and I don't know if you ever played against Navy in your career, but the way that they run their offense is so much different, and Army's as well, than most other college Division I programs play, that it's got to be a tough task to sort of like practice and prepare for these guys because Well, who's on?
It's actually almost impossible to prepare for week to week if you have a game prior. And who did they play Notre Dame the week before? They played Clemson, which is a physical team. I don't care if Notre Dame beat them by 17 or not. Clemson's still a physical team, probably the top-rated defensive line in the country. So that offensive line is now coming in with cut blocks to the knees, right? Chop blocks, ankle rolls, all this stuff. I just think Navy gets after them. I think Notre Dame wins, but I definitely don't think it's by 17.5.
Yeah, that's the Dan Campbell approach to coaching right there. We got chop blocks, we got knees. We're going to be biting people's toes off. We're going to go all for the appendages. All right, real quick. So the NFL plays, John. We've got Cleveland plus 3.5 points. You're taking Atlanta and Carolina over the total of 43.5. And we did talk about Green Bay, Dallas, the second half. Now, this is the second half under the total of 21. But let's talk about Cleveland plus these 3.5 points here because, look, Cleveland, a week ago, I think it was, they play a Bengals team. Well, that was on Halloween, excuse me. They shocked the world because, they played the Bengals really good, but they shocked the betting world by beating these guys like a redheaded stepchild. Cleveland is not without their talents. They've got great edge rushing with Myles Garrett. They've got good safeties. They've got good cornerbacks. Jacoby Brissett has, of course, been a bit of the question mark, but he's capable enough. Why do you like him plus the points this week?
I mean, Jacoby Brissett's got he's got a top 10 QBR rating right now. He probably doesn't throw as much as other quarterbacks just because they got the two-headed monster, but I follow a bunch of sharps that I think are some of the best in the business. And they're always asking this week, did Cleveland turn the corner with that win? And is Miami overvalued in the market? And according to these guys, that's yes and yes, right? So when you look at Cleveland, they just beat up on Cincinnati Monday Night Football. Miami, 3-game win streak. I believe they're on 3-game win streak.
Yeah.
These wins look way, way different to me and to these sharps, right? Miami, Lions, Bears. I think they played those two teams recently. They just gave up 250 yards rushing to Chicago. What does Cleveland do? They run the damn ball, right? Power game plus the points, dog pound, time of possession game. Give me the Brownies.
Yeah, I like this too. I mean, just from a number perspective, I can see Miami winning this game, but a lot like they did against the Bears last week, 35-32. Like they've got something, and I'm still not sold on Tua Tagovailoa, and we'll talk about that more as the season progresses on. I'm still not sold, but what Mike McDaniels has done, John, is give this kid who is a limited arm quarterback, right? He's given this kid a really good scheme in which to work with. Atlanta, Carolina over 43.5. I can see it going like this with Cordell Patterson back now. Atlanta's run game and Marcus Mariota, they've been not bad.
They've been turning up the last few games. And I think I'm bucking a trend here because divisional games this year with home underdogs, which this game is, because I think Carolina is the home underdog, has been profitable this year. I'm bucking the trend. And I'm going with the trend on Thursday night games that if you have a total between 42-49, you're looking at about a 60% over clip. So I'm fading these defenses. When you look at two teams just met a few weeks ago, they both dropped 71 points as a total, 37-34. Carolina just let up 63 total points with Cincinnati last game. So 28th or higher ranked defenses on overall adjusted value. So these teams' defenses are terrible. Fading the defenses tonight, rooting for offense. Give me the over 43.5.
All right, I like it. Well, John, we've got Green Bay, Dallas under 21 in the second half, and that won't be hard to bet on either. Green Bay can't score, and they'll give up all 21 of those points to Dallas. Hey, thanks for all of your wise words, your sage wisdom when it comes to sports betting. Again, follow John on Twitter at Johnny Utah, JONNY_Utah. Until next week here on the program, man, thanks for everything, and have a great week.
Yeah, gents, take care, brother.
Thanks, John.
Preferred Insurance is the official auto, home, business, flood, and life insurance agency of the Sports Carnival, serving folks in La Crosse and surrounding areas with licenses in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. As an independent insurance agency, Preferred Insurance is free to find the very best insurance for you, your family, or your business needs. Call my friends at Preferred Insurance today and set up a free consultation. Remember, working with an independent agency means Preferred Insurance works for you, with you, to find the best solutions at the best prices.
The official mortgage team of the Sports Carnival is the Midwest Mortgage Team of Land Home Financial, my good buddies Mike Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi. Listen, we all know the mortgage industry is in a bit of an upheaval right now, and that's why it's more important than ever to go to a couple of guys that you can trust, a local operation right here in La Crosse. That is the Midwest Mortgage Team. Again, Michael Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi of Land Home Financial. Don't make a mistake with your mortgage needs. Go to the official mortgage provider of the Sports Carnival, the Midwest Mortgage Team, Mike Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi.
Hey, it's time for koozies, hot tub, and jacuzzis in downtown La Crosse. Whether you're looking to relax after a hard day's work, or maybe you're up for a little soak and poke, we got you covered. That's right, when you're in the market for a hot tub or jacuzzi, all you have to do is call the Coos. 555-SOAK, that's 555-7625. Soak and poke is a slang term for hot tub sex. Please practice responsibly.
Back to the action live from the Trauma Center Studios. This is the one and only Sports Carnival. When asked if he preferred grass over AstroTurf, Tug McGraw replied, I don't know. I never tried to smoke AstroTurf. Here's your host, Dave Kearney.
Oh boy, Tug, you keep tugging on my heartstrings right there. Chad, you know what I used to do in the middle of winter in Wisconsin? I would sprinkle bonus degrees, and I calculated these bonus degrees by grams. I get 28.5 grams of bonus degrees every single month. And if we're good boys and girls and Uncle Dave feels like making it a bit warmer, I crumple up some of those bonus degrees really fine like, and I sprinkle them all over the area. Audience members became quite used to the sprinkling of bonus degrees. And I want to thank Scott Walker and his lazy eye for giving me the ability to do that. Because, Chad, when I came out here, right after we left our show in Las Vegas, I had to hit that dude right in the forehead. What did it do? It straightened out his vision. And because of that, he figured it was incumbent upon himself to, at the time, still as governor, bequeath me with 28.5 grams each month of bonus degrees, which I'm able to spread amongst the masses as I deem fit.
Always suspect when a guy like you knows the metric system as well as you do.
Thank you. That is suspect. And when somebody like me knows metric system, you know what?
I'm just throwing it out there. If you're not Canadian and you're a guy like Dave and you know the metric system, there may be a problem.
So the guy that I wanted to win sheriff didn't win sheriff. So if the new guy that's winning that won sheriff is listening to this, which I really hope he's not, it's all CBD. Like everything is all CBD, which is legal here in the state of Wisconsin. It's not quite like you guys in hippie Washington, where you're taking magic mushrooms and being able to smoke the funky cigarettes. Like we're not like that here.
Hold on. We do not get magic mushrooms in Washington.
Oh, I thought that was coming.
I think that's it may be coming, but it isn't a fact yet. I believe that it's Colorado and possibly Oregon, which. There are more hippies in Oregon than there are.
Fair enough.
Oregon, not Oregon. It's not Nevada. It's Nevada. Okay.
Right.
Let's get that out of the way.
Oregon is here in Wisconsin, as opposed to Oregon, which is out in the West, because I made that crucial mistake on one of my first UWL Eagles coaches shows with now head coach Matt Janis, who was the defensive coordinator at the time. And I was like super excited. I'm like, wow, you got a kid. He's from Oregon. This is great. They looked at me like I was riding the short bus right there to the actual place of broadcast and corrected me that it was Oregon, Wisconsin, which is ironically where Joe DeGuano, the Mad Dog of Madison, our Green and Gold insider, actually lives right now, at least part-time.
Was this when Matt Janis had the big old Maine? When he had the big old...
Before that.
Oh, it was before that.
Yeah,
okay.
It was before that. The Maine came during COVID. Like the main came during COVID. It was almost like Movember that just lasted for 24 months as opposed to just 1 month, which if we really go back to that, I forgot so much of what happened during those 2 years. I mean, I really did. Like it wiped my memory in so many ways. Do you think now, looking back on it, that we actually did anything like with those 2 years off? Because I mean, I can't remember shit. Like, I don't know what happened. I know that Matt Janis got his staff installed and that was a great time for them to be able to boost this up. Did anything else happen? Like, did we make any measurable or incremental improvements that you can talk about? Because I'm struggling.
What do you mean we? When we say we as a people,
as the collective we, like as the collective we, the royal we. Did we make any measurable improvements?
No, we did not. We've only regressed. We're in this total breakdown of society, and it's glory. If you're like George Carlin, you have to watch it in all of its glory and just enjoy it. You have to embrace it to a certain degree because otherwise you'll go mad.
I feel like that's probably the sentiment that a lot of people it would take. Listen, and I don't mean to go back on this. It was what it was. We got through it. You know, we're for those of us that are still here, we got through it. It just, I don't know. I look back now and I'm like, the wasted years that I have in my own memory, which I'm not saying that I couldn't have wasted all by myself, because that's something that's very much in the realm of possibility. I can kill enough.
Subjective anyway. If you've wasted or not, subjective. Some people would say, no, you've done a lot. And other people would be like, what the hell are you doing with your life? Depends on the person.
I wasn't as productive as I should have been. I'm just going to let you know, like I was not as productive as I should have been. I'm sure I should have been, fucking making like wood sculptures like your mom. I mean, how many birdhouses did she make?
They made quite a few. Yeah. Birdhouses. And she likes to make signs like out of wood that have all these inspirational sayings on them and stuff. Yeah, no, she
live, laugh, love, things like that. Eat, drink, and be happy. It's in the kitchen. Things of that nature. It is
what it is something I say a lot. So she put that on a piece of wood.
It is what it is.
No, because it is like sometimes you just have to, like the whole COVID thing. It is what it is. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? You can hide away and not do anything, or are you going to go out and take your chances and live your life? That's what I did. Unfortunately, I lost a few people, and it sucked. It still sucks to this day, but as you said, we got through it. We got through it collectively. Now we have to pick up all the pieces, and there's a lot of pieces, and it's not fun. That's why we watch sports, to distract ourselves from the horrid nature of life.
See, I got the memo that during COVID, we were supposed to choose between shitting or going blind. Like, right, do you want to shit or go blind? And I was like, well, I just guess I'm gonna shit a lot then, right? So let's.
Well, I am wearing reading glasses now, so maybe I'm going blind.
Hey, I'm just wearing glasses in general because I can't.
I'm constipated. I'm wearing reading glasses. If you're constipated and wearing reading glasses, you're doing it wrong.
Right? Yeah, definitely do it. Neil Duda doing it right here. By the way, Neil, we're just loving your jams at the end of the show every day. They're so fun. He says, "Good morning, boys. Sorry I'm late. Did I miss anything?" Oh, I don't know. Just everything.
I want to tease something, Neil. I have an idea, and I have written it, and I have voiced it, but I haven't put it together. It involves Neil Duda and his DJ services. And I'll give you the name of it. It's Hey Duda. It's called Hey Duda DJ services. And I've got something in the works, Neil. I actually am inspired by your awesome white guy rap. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. Okay. That's not a pejorative. I mean that in all sincerity. We went out on the show yesterday with it. And I told you off there, I said, you know what? This is growing on me.
I know.
Initially, you're like, what the H is this? And then I'm like, you know what? I'm like, you get into it, man. He can rap.
Neil's got skills. I mean, he's got skills. I don't know if it's skills that are going to take him to the Grammy, but it's definitely skills that are going to getting him booked, at local weddings. And Chad, before we run out of time, I want to remind our listeners and audience members this morning on YouTube and on Podbean that we've got a poll question on our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney. And the question is simply, what's more surprising, the Bucs' hot start or the Packers' cold season? Chad, 100% of respondents so far say it's the Packers' cold season. 100% of respondents.
Obvious. I mean, that surprise you? I mean, we kind of, you figure the Bucs are going to do well, right?
Yeah, 10-1. I mean, I just listen. I think that the reason that I put this up there was simply because I agree it shouldn't be surprising, but I want to just gauge the temperature of Packer fans, because anybody that tells me they thought that this season was going to devolve into what it has devolved into is lying to themselves, and they're lying to me, because nobody saw this coming. Now, the Milwaukee Bucks, and thank you for putting this up, they're going to be in town on December the 7th. Guess who they're playing? The Toronto Raptors. And all you have to do to win a pair of tickets is go to the official bar restaurant of the Sports Carnival, the Recovery Room, Chad, and order an Absolute cocktail or a Jameson cocktail or shot, and you get an entry slip. Now, on November the 30th, so the very end of this month, we're going to have a big party over there, 6 to 10 o'clock at night. You're going to get double entries. I've seen this already. The cooler that is being filled with the entry slips for this Bucks giveaway is it's going to overflow. And I don't know if Matt at the recovery room's got a second cooler that he's ready to put in here, but man, they are shoving papers in this thing like deep. I mean, it is deep. The cool thing for all of our audience members is this. All you got to do is go to the recovery room and drink like you normally would. Get some whiskey, get some vodka, get an entry slip, and you got a chance to win. Now, if you subscribe to the Sports Carnival on YouTube, on Facebook, or on our Podbean account, you get an extra entry slip. So, Chad, we're givers. We just want to give. And thank you to Absolute and Jameson for that. We're listening to Neil Duda on the way out. Have a great rest of your Thursday, boys and girls. And we'll be back bright and early tomorrow morning, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios.
Hey, Duda DJ services coming at you.